and home of the Steve Harvey Morning Show.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I am your host, Michelle Malcolm, and as always, it is a pleasure to be in your company today. Thank you so much for tuning in and making GPS a part of your afternoon. It does not go unnoticed, and we appreciate your continued support. And so Grand Bahama is back in the news again. I don't know if it ever left, really. And Grand Bahama is going to take center stage of our show once again today, which is fitting because we know that you folks in Grand Bahama can hear us. The folks in Nassau still can't hear us by radio because our new transmitter has not yet completely been installed. So they are working to get that done. And in the meantime, we are going to continue to broadcast stream on Facebook and YouTube for our New Providence audience who is unable to access the show via radio just yet. You may recall, those of you who follow the show, that our transmitter was struck by lightning last week. And that clearly caused some technical problems because lightning and electronic devices don't work well together. And as a result, we were significantly impacted in our ability to bring you a clear, clean broadcast here in New Providence. But that obviously did not affect our Grand Bahama audience. So we are going to be focusing on Grand Bahama today. And if you are in Grand Bahama, I'd like to encourage you to call a friend, get everybody listening, because this show is all about you and the welfare of that island, questions surrounding the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and whether or not the government should take that over. Would that be a step in the right direction, or would that be a step backward? These are the issues and more that we're going to be discussing as it relates to the economy of Grand Bahama today. And we're going to be joined very soon. He's there? Okay, great. So C. Alan Johnson is my guest of honor today. And C. Alan is obviously a wealth of knowledge as it relates to the island where he resides and what needs to be happening in his opinion, to improve the economy there. So If you haven't already done so, Jason, you can bring him into the stream. He's there. Okay, great. See, Alan, welcome to the show.
Thank you once again, Michelle. It's always a pleasure to talk about my home.
I know, right?
The rescue, the life of the Bahamas, soon to be.
And just so you all know, Grand Bahama, he really does love his island. He's been trying to convince me for the longest time that I need to come move to Grand Bahama. But that ain't the plan of the Lord for my life. So so I don't know. I don't know, Seattle. I know that can happen. But but he really does love his Grand Bahama very much. And I'm gonna be talking today about this whole question. Well, not just this, but I want to lead off with this question of whether or not the government should take over the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Now, I want to read an article from, or an opinion piece from Frederick McAlpine, and this will give you an idea of what his thoughts are on the matter. It's his former Pine Ridge MP, Frederick McAlpine, does not believe the government should acquire the Grand Bahama Port Authority, though he believes a change in leadership at the entity is needed. McAlpine's comments came after Prime Minister Philip Davis said on Wednesday, in response to a question about the Grand Bahama Port Authority, that he is intent on helping Grand Bahama fulfill its potential after decades of stagnation. Eyewitness News understands that the Davis administration is eyeing potentially major changes to the GBPA, and that officials have had meetings about the future of the organization with leaders since coming to office. Cabinet ministers, however, declined to comment on the matter yesterday, telling EWN the talks are sensitive. McAlpine said, when it comes to the Port Authority, within the last 2 decades, people are now questioning the relevancy of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. I've said then, and I'll say now, there still seems to be a lack of vision, and it seems not to be cohesiveness between the relationship between the government and the Port Authority, who, when it is convenient, pass the buck on to the other. He goes on to say, I believe that if what you have at the top doesn't seem to work, then perhaps it's time for the Port Authority leadership, for the shareholders to consider the leadership. Perhaps it's time now for new leadership in the running of the day-to-day operations of the Port Authority. Asked if the government should encourage the same of the port, McAlpine said no. For instance, he said, the people in the Freeport area are still not comfortable at this time with the government perhaps collecting their garbage. They are not doing the best job in other jurisdictions. There are some benefits we have reaped from the Port Authority, sanitation, water, etc. But when it comes to the development, such as investors living up to their obligations, it has become very ambiguous within the last 2 decades. And I'm quoting now, as they did in this piece. The question is it perhaps time for the shareholders to take a look at the partnership between Hutchinson Whampoa and the Grand Bahama Port Authority to see which has been weakening and causing the organization and the company to seem lacking a vision and not being able to bring in new investors so that Grand Bahama can have the uptick that it needs economically. Free National Movement founding Father Maurice Moore has said it is past time for the government to acquire GBPA. However, Shavargo Lang, another former Grand Bahama MP, said yesterday that people must think through what is possible and not. All right, C. Allen, what are your thoughts? Maurice Moore is saying he thinks it's high time. McAlpine says put the brakes on that idea, not a good idea.
But, it's funny. They're all right for the wrong reasons.
Okay, explain.
Okay. First of all, right, let's go with McAlpine and basically general public speaking. The Grand Bahama Port Authority structure is nothing but a shell. Like Maurice Moore said, they are nothing more than an administrative arm. They have divested themselves of all the assets that were supposed to be part of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. And so it's nothing but a shell. And every company, every asset they own is now standing as a standalone company, whether it be the investments in DevCo, the water company, and all of those. The Port Authority is a shell. At best, it has a value of about $1. That's it. Okay, so acquiring it, yes. Now, here's the problem with the word acquire, right? We can acquire just like we did with the airport, $1, right? And you know, look at the structure for the individuals, but we cannot acquire it as Michael Pine seems to lean to, and others as if the government would run it. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, in its true intent, going back to 1990, should have evolved or devolved into what is called municipal governance. And so we have to look at the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement when we speak about acquiring the Grand Bahama Port Authority, what assets it have, and the actual structure that is now in place, regardless of how it has been manipulated. And so the Grand Bahama Port Authority is supposed to be almost like an economic council, a promotion board to bring forth development, etc., to Grand Bahama. So even if the government was to acquire it for $1, I believe that that should be put in a sovereign trust, a sovereign wealth fund, a sovereign trust, to be run by a sovereign asset management company for which central government has no ability to interfere, such as the appointments of family, friend, lovers, foreigners, supporters, finances, whatever it is. We've seen the competency and capability of other individuals appointed to other government ministries. We have a tendency of creating what is called Peter's Principle in the way we appoint people. What is Peter's Principle? Peter's Principle says all of us will eventually be promoted to the level of our incompetence. And essentially, what it says is that we often say, you know, C. Allen Jones is a good computer programmer, so he'll make a good brain surgeon. Let's make him in charge of the medical department. And in that position, I would have reached the level of my incompetence because I know nothing about it. And so so what we need, a sovereign asset management company, will actually act just as the Grand Bahama Port Authority, except we would 100% own it. And that sovereign asset management company will only be paid on the profits generated up and beyond what exists today. Okay, so we would 100% own it. There'll be no interference. An international company, a Bahamian company, a combination of the same, that would actually run and function it as it should be under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. Now, we must then look now to how the assets have been diversified out of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement or out of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, such as the power company. One of the things that we must first immediately address is the facade of GBPC having exclusivity for power generation, distribution, and transmission on the island. That has to be corrected. The Grand Bahama Port Authority and the power company has already violated that terms if they want to make that argument. And what do I mean by that? The power generation unit of Emera is a wholly subsidiary or break off from them that actually sits, the generation part of it sits on the Bahamian Stock Exchange. That's owned by investors. So that means that the actual GBPC is buying generation power from that company. So that would mean that anybody else can seek to be licensed to generate power and have access to the transmission and distribution network on this island, which will solve our power issue. So we will not be subject to these high power bills because we can now have renewable energy individuals enter the grid, whether they generate power in East Grand Bahama, West Grand Bahama, or Freeport proper, as well as individuals themselves can actually begin to generate their own power. And the way that could also happen is the creation of microgrids as homes in Freeport or Grand Bahama as a whole begin to switch to renewable energy as part of a green economy. So I don't want people to believe that this sounds complicated. Not just the power company. The land area, if you read the ambassador's statement concerning the review to delay the implementation of taxes under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, he himself says, and this is something that myself as well as Greg Moore, I think, agitated for, and even at all the town meetings, that should not have been renewed. And if you look at what he says, if we were to demand the taxes that is owed from previous incarnations of when they should have been paying taxes, as well as reinstate the fact that they should begin to pay taxes on this massive land holdings across Grand Bahama they hold, chances are the amount due would give us a value far exceeding the current value of the land. So we could simply have that particular assets just for having them paying the tax bill on it. And even if they were to pay the tax bill or unable to pay part of it, we can begin to, instead of arguing, begin to take valuable land back into this sovereign trust as payment for each time tax is due, whether it be from the Grand Bahama Port Authority or from Hutchison Whampoa, who is joint owners to DevCo. The Grand Bahama Port Authority owns 50% shares in DevCo, the land holding company, through another company that the Grand Bahama Port Authority owns called Port Group Limited. And so this is how the assets has been separated from the GBPA. And so a lot of time people talk about this as if they were singular. I honestly believe some of our politicians does so deliberately within pure intent of maintaining the confusion that happens to be about this Hawkesbury Creek Agreement and the Grand Bahama Port Authority and exactly who they are. Just a couple other points. Mm-hmm. The water company can also be acquired. The water company is a liability to the Grand Bahama Port Authority now. In fact, since Dorian, they have been inadequate in producing the water. They've done probably tens of millions of damage to homes and businesses on Grand Bahama Island for 2 years, pumping salt water into businesses and to home, destroying infrastructure, washing machines, refrigerators, water heaters, piping, business appliances, and all those different things. Now, also right now, the water company is not generating sufficient water supply to provide the pressure that is needed to adequately provide potable water throughout Grand Bahama. In apartment complexes in Grand Bahama, they've had to get water tanks. And even in East End and West End, the water pressure, if you have a 2-story house or a 3-story house or an apartment complex, you don't get water on the second floor most of the times. And so these are things that has to be addressed. So, but when we talk about these so-called assets that they've divested themselves of, we have to begin to look at it individually. But ultimately, I would say unequivocally, I think if the opportunity presents itself for us to take possession of the Freeport area through virtue of our sovereign trust, I would say we should do so immediately. And we must, however, have conversation in context of the reality of what is as opposed to what was or what we want to imagine it to be.
So let me ask you a question. Going back to your suggestion that even if they acquire it, they put it in the hands of this sovereign trust entity. Does that not still boil down to the leadership of that entity? And would it not be equal to what we have now if the leadership of that entity is not able to perform in the way that they should perform to make it work?
No, that's what I'm saying to you. If I'm leading a sovereign asset management, I would come and have to make an argument looking at the assets do a SWOT analysis, do a PESTEL analysis. For those who don't know, strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. PESTEL is political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecological impact analysis, and some other studies to basically make an argument as to why I should be afforded to create this magnificent city of the future here in Freeport. And to become the promotional arm, such as they have companies in the US, in Miami, we have the Beacon Council, and other places in other cities. We have companies and models of institutions whose job is to build cities, to build municipalities, to develop ecosystems, to actually create environment for businesses to thrive. In fact, we can have one sovereign asset management who turns around and retains smaller sovereign asset management, where one will come in to build the blue economy. One could come in and build an orange economy. One could be here to build an ocean economy. One can be here to build a platform economy, a digital economy, all these variations based on a master plan. And so you would have an environment with almost seemingly unlimited landmass and underdeveloped for 40 years, geolocated almost in a perfect environment with deep water harbor, ability to build airports and etc., second homes, affordable housing, businesses, industry, hospitality, tourism, a whole digital environment, build data centers, can build all of these different things right here in Freeport under hundreds of thousands of acres that is here, that is infrastructurally superior to almost every island in the Caribbean as it stands right now. That is about 60 to 75 miles off the coast of one of the fastest developing technological cities in the United States called Miami. So what we lack here, and I have to agree with Malcolm Pine, is vision as to what Freeport can be. Now remember, Freeport at the same time has a local government structure. We can bring real local government into a test bed for Freeport as called for under the Hawke's Bay Creek Agreement in the form of municipal governance. And so what happens is Grand Bahama is the gem that is waiting to be polished of not just the Bahamas, but not even the region, but actually the world, based on where we are and the preparedness that of the position that we're in. What we, however, we've had for the last 40 years in the Grand Bahama Port Authority, as well as in government, leadership whose ambitions has been greater than their ability, or they have been deliberately deceitful in not doing what was necessary for the development of Grand Bahama for the benefit of all Bahamians.
All right, I want to talk about that last scenario. They've been deliberately deceitful. I want to talk about, I'm going to take a break, but I want to talk about who that deliberate deceit, alleged deliberate deceit, would benefit and why it has been allowed to happen if your theory is correct. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about Grand Bahama today, and whether or not someone's suggesting the government should acquire the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Others are saying, are you kidding? Look at how they run the government now. So we're talking about that and more as to what it'll take to turn around the Grand Bahamian economy. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here with my guest today, C. Alan Johnson. Grand Bahama is taking center stage on our show today. We're talking about suggestions that the government should acquire the Grand Bahama Port Authority and what that would mean for the island. Some people are all for it, some are all against it. I want to give a shout out to somebody listening via Cloud Radio. They sent in a WhatsApp message saying, "Good afternoon, listening via Cloud Radio, the Cloud Radio app." Welcome to you, and thank you so much for finding us on the Cloud Radio app. The numbers to call for those of you in Grand Bahama listening via radio, or those of you watching on Facebook, or those of you listening on some other app like the Cloud Radio app, 3260271, 3260271, 3260271, or 3260272, 3260272. And the WhatsApp line is 801-0271, 801-0271. You can send us a message on WhatsApp, your text, and we will go ahead and get your comments on the air. Okay, so Cialan, you're suggesting that this may be deliberate, what we see happening. I want to read a couple of our Facebook messages as it relates to this, and then I want you to break this down for us as to why you think this is deliberate and who's benefiting. Okay, so this message on Facebook is from Adrian. Adrian Mott says, Miss Malcolm and Mr. Allen, Grand Bahamians don't seem to care. No protests. They just let it go. I met Edward St. George in Exuma at the Ricardo in the early 1990s. He was walking around barefoot. He took the time to talk to me, and what I could hear from this man is his vision for a free port is not what is happening today. Grand Bahamians, do they even care? Robert Rigby says, it's not deliberate by our politicians. It's all fair. They are living comfortably in their skin. And Wolverine says, Andros has the ability to plan and design every aspect of a full city, municipalities, and amenities on paper first, infrastructure for road, traffic load management, electronic, telecommunications, water and sewage, as well as landscape security. Everything could be planned out first to maximize space usage and conserve environment and forestry ahead of time. Okay, so but Andros is another show. We're talking about Grand Bahama today.
I want to touch on Andros, right? Because everybody run to this Andros. No one knows what Andros is. All they do is look at the landmass. At one time, Andros was considered the Eden for the world in case of a global catastrophe. Andros is an ecological wonder world. Imagine this, what people have to understand. We always talk about this green economy and this carbon credit. We have maybe 300,000 cars in the Bahamas. And every single day, thousands of gallons of oil is imported. Thousands of gallons of radiator fluid and oil and transmission fluid is imported. Nobody exports this. That means they are here for decades in the Bahamas. We are not technologically fit to even consider going to Andros, to actually consider developing anything there in a pristine environment that is admired by the world, that support the third largest barrier reef, I think, in the world. To go there and say, we're going to develop using the mindset that we have and have developed on all these other islands. However, the way Grand Bahama is infrastructurally prepared, no billions of dollars needed. Because when you go to Andros, we're talking about capture systems to capture car fluids, maybe putting an e-environment and all these other things. If Andros is for a future city, but we're talking now about the economic reality of where we are. And when you look at the 700 islands, when you look at what island is best prepared on day one, it'll be Grand Bahama because of the infrastructural preparedness that has already been done in Freeport to accommodate 250,000 people going back over 40 years ago. And with the advancement and update of this infrastructure in place, we could very easily move to 1 million or more individuals in real time, as opposed to saying we're going to get a few $1 billion to do Andros right. Anybody who talk about developing Andros in the mindset we have today, it'll be the equivalent of saying that you're going to piss in your teapot before you make tea.
That's not a pretty picture. Why do you believe, getting back to the point that you made prior to the break, that this, what we see happening now, is deliberate? And if you are right, who's benefiting from that?
Well, there's a number of benefits. Number one, somebody said fair. They absolutely fair fixing Freeport, even under the terms of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. That same statement by the ambassador, Maurice Moore, about having them pay taxes on the land holdings. Under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, it required by 1990, an actual land registry. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement also says no law should apply to Bahamians in Freeport that doesn't apply to Bahamians everywhere. That's how we end up the facade of local government. So we get to satisfy some requirements to extend or to delay the implementation of taxes in Freeport. So that means to begin to collect taxes on the land in Freeport, you must create a land registry. You go, wow, people have been screaming for this for decades. Why wouldn't we want a land registry? A couple of things. It'll automatically end the legalized theft, not my word, the Privy Council, of using the Quieting Titles Act. Okay, that's the Privy Council call it legalized theft and an abuse. in the manner for which it's executed here in the Bahamas. Another point. So when you do the land registry, you could buy land and you'll be able to see who owned every piece of land in the Bahamas, going back to when the Queen had it. Now, people ask, well, that's great. Guess what you'll also get to see? Who got the 2 million acres of crown land that's missing? You'll get to see who's holding title to those and what they paid for it. And you'll get to see politicians, family, friends, lovers, foreigners, and whatever, the land they have. And all the documents on acquiring it and what they paid for it and all these other things. And you'll begin to recognize that Bahamians have been lied to, bamboozled, and led astray for almost 40 plus or maybe even longer. Because land theft through grants by the Prime Minister or Premier has been going on before majority rule. So this is why you ask this is why they mislead you, because to develop Freeport requires that we put in place systems that we've been screaming for. The Hawkesbury Creek Agreement also called for municipal government, not just local government, which is nothing more than glorified administrator or whatever they used to call it before. Real local government. And so when you have real local government, MPs almost become obsolete. They actually need to just go to Parliament for three things: policies, legislature, and programs. This whole thing about running administration and running ministries and stuff goes out the window. They ain't supposed to be doing it anyway. Understand? So that's what we send them to Parliament for. We send them for legislative, policy, and programs. But we got them running government ministries and government boards as if though they are competent. This is the Peters principle. So that then you now have real local government, municipal governments like you see around the world. Another aspect of it is that the center of commerce, which is controlled with 75% or more of the population on one island, New Providence, will actually begin to shift and diversify, allowing thousands of Bahamian families to maybe become millionaires. Because what you have is a captive pen. See, we often talk about the crab in the barrel or crab in the cage and how we do each other. But people miss the point of the black crab syndrome. It's not a black crab syndrome. I want people to pay attention to this very carefully. What you have, if you go into the wild and you see crabs walking and associating, you don't see any of them pulling each other down or on each other's back. What you do, however, if you go to the market downtown, you'll see crabs supposed to be pulling each other down. I say they're not pulling each other down. The guy at the top is trying to help the guy to the bottom, but there's so many of them that the weight of those at the bottom pulls him back down. And when you see them standing each other's shoulder, they're trying to give each other a push up. So when you begin to look at the difference between the crab in the wild and the crab in the market, you realize the problems is not the crab, it's the cage. See, they've gotten you to believe that the other person is trying to get you. It's kind of like I sit at the table between two brothers with a plate of cookies. I give one 2 cookies, and then I tell the other, I give one cookies and give 1 2 cookies and then don't give the other one. And I tell the one I give 2 cookies to, see, he trying to take your cookies. So they begin to look at each other instead of looking at the plate of cookies they have left. We've been played. So I want people to get it out of their mind. Now, going back to the economy. In Nassau, and this is why you saw the fight for the last decade plus to get control of these ports. And they didn't want no other port anywhere around New Providence, and they was trying to get to Morgan's Bluff and Mayaguana. Is because if you begin to develop Freeport, imagine 50, 60, 70,000 individuals from New Providence moving to Freeport. This is families for jobs, affordable housing and opportunity. A piece of land in New Providence will cost you a good quarter-acre land. New Providence will be $150,000 to $200,000. Guess what? In Freeport, you could buy land and house for that. So what happens is, if there's jobs and opportunity for ownership in Freeport, families would leave New Providence. Sounds like a wonderful thing. Affordable housing, good this, good everything, good jobs, business ownership. What you miss in that is a concept called political power. First, now you have diversified economic power where they own the harbors. So they have no ownership or control of the harbor on Grand Bahama. So you have equitable access just like they do without extra taxation for import or export coming into the island. you would now have a place, an environment for where you could be competitive in the gas monopoly that even in Freeport it'll be broken because the new entity that takes over for the Grand Bahama Port Authority will no longer maintain that monopoly. Now, what you have is the 60,000 families moving here. Guess what 60,000 families mean? It means a huge majority of the political power called MP seats on New Providence will leave New Providence and go to Grand Bahama and maybe even Abaco by virtue of that economy developing. So now they know the oligarchs and the plutocrats, the politicians, no longer have a means of manipulating the structure of governance by virtue of our parliamentary democracy by keeping all the seats and the power, the consolidation of power on New Providence. They will have no control of an emancipated people on the island of Grand Bahama who will choose from amongst themselves as opposed to the facade of choosing MPs on New Providence. Because imagine 10 seats, 8 seats removed from New Providence and put on Grand Bahama because the population growth. You see the change in political dynamics. So we would definitely see a change in governance within 5 to 10 years, like we've been demanding and the new generation of Bahamians have been desirous of for the last 2 decades. But we have had leadership who have given us the facade of what do you call a thing? Constitutional reform. Mm-hmm. They give us a lie called a referendum, where government have to decide on the referendum when they could have simply changed the law to allow referendums to be initiated by the people, like they do in the rest of the world and other parliamentary democracy, where you don't have to depend on government to decide if and when you have a referendum. Set a law and the rules to say this is the threshold. If you want to have a referendum, meet these threshold and it goes on the ballot. See, what we have is had a manipulation of governance by keeping people dumb and in the dark concerning their true power that is available to them. But Grand Bahama, as it stands right now, is the economic savior of the Bahamas because we are in an economic crisis. And we will see pain like we've never seen before. For anyone that's under 100 years old, will be able to tell history about the pain they have experienced in the next coming year or so in the Bahamas. Except if we move to utilize the F&M platform from the last administration and the PLP platform from this administration, you can have Freeport develop. Let me just quickly make these 3 points. The previous administration said they want ecotourism in East Grand Bahama. Is that not the same thing that the PLP is saying the green economy? The previous administration said they want cultural and heritage in West Grand Bahama. Is that not the same thing as the orange economy now being promoted by the PLP? They said they would like industry, the previous administration said they would like industry and technology in Central Grand Bahama. Isn't that the same as the digital economy and others that the PLP is now saying? They both agree that Freeport is ideal for the green economy, the digital economy, the orange economy, and the other economies that we have. And so the statement that they make about not knowing what to do, I say to you that they don't know what to do. And here's why I say that. This is why I say the Grand Bahama Port Authority leadership. Remember now, we must remember, Ian Roll has sat in that position for 15 years as president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority in a leadership position. 15 years of nothing happening in Grand Bahama. And before that, he served as the chief financial officer. Let's not forget that the current minister of Grand Bahama and the supposed architect by her virtue of her hinting in parliament of the blueprint for change, the PLP current platform, also served as vice president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority for a number of years. So this organization and the structure and the Hawkspeaking Agreement is not foreign to government, the current minister, or the current leadership, or they've absolutely been 100% ignorant of what this document is. And they've done a good job of hiding all the paperwork. We've spent millions of dollars for the McKinsey report. It's supposed to be public. We can't get it. We've spent money to do the study that way we say we can question. They promise us, oh, don't worry. Everybody who appeared before the committee and all the documents from this committee will be made public. The PLP the previous PLP administration promised that. Many of the same people serving in the cabinet and other position were sitting in cabinet and at a long position. Why haven't they provided us with the data that is necessary to make decisions concerning Grand Bahama? That's what I'm saying to you. These is deliberate. And there's a number of other things. Literally speaking, development of Freeport and putting things in its right order will correct the entire Bahamas, both economically and politically. This is why Freeport has been kept exactly what it is. And let me say this, the government of the Bahamas and the Grand Bahama Port Authority has been in collusion for 20 plus years. What do I mean by that? If you want a license in Freeport right now, the Grand Bahama Port Authority is unable to give you a Bahamian business license. If you want to partake of the benefits of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement that's supposed to be managed by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, they don't have the authority to give you the tax concessions. The government of the Bahamas does. So the question then becomes, what are you paying the Port Authority for?
I want to read a couple of comments from our Facebook viewers, because that word collusion is a very strong word. And I want to read a couple of comments that sort of touch on the whole question of whether or not you are actually right. So first and foremost, this first comment I want to read came in from Bertha, who says the government should do whatever is possible to help Grand Bahama. They were suffering for too long. It's like some evil forces hanging over them, like the hurricane did. And then there is this response to her, and I'm trying to get my thing to go down. It says, Bertha, the only evil spirits hanging over and has always been hanging over Grand Bahama is the past, present, and future governments of the Bahamas. They only pretend to want to help, and nothing ever gets delivered. And behind closed doors, they are the ones sabotaging the island. What are your thoughts?
I believe in principle they're absolutely correct, because they could have corrected this. In the same capacity going back to 1992, when governance in the Sunshine came about, where instead of trying to fix or enforce the tenets of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, Hubert Alexander Ingram administration sought to literally, and I use the word collusion, work with the Grand Bahama Port Authority to deceive the Bahamian people by setting up the creation of these schools and building all of these things they didn't do for decades. They say, quickly, let's do these things. The agreement says that you should have built this. Let's do this. The Justice Center. Let's build these schools. Let's do whatever. Let's create a local government environment. All of that was done intentionally. Supposedly, they're supposed to also maintain the road across the Hawkesbury Creek. We paid for it. And so, again, if you listen to Maurice Moore, he would tell you that there's been endemic failure for the Grand Bahama Port Authority to be true to its intent. And in fact, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, this is where you see the shift. I don't want to spend too much time in the history, but we could have a conversation with the history of Grand Bahama. As when that bend and break speech and people began to leave, the Grand Bahama Port Authority in 1990 began to believe that the government had no intent of delaying the implementation of taxation, and that's when they began to divest themselves of the assets, almost like a cash grab. And then they say, oh, we can still hang around. So we have to create a facade to maintain as if everything is okay, even though we have divested themselves. I have no problem, right? We have an opportunity to correct the wrongs, but let's do it with equity, not equality, with equity as to what should have happened and what is. So if the families, the two families that supposed to have ownership, and Hutchinson Whampoa, then they can maintain these so-called equity. But we will exercise their construct through the laws of the Bahamas and the intent of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement for the benefit of Bahamians and licensees. Like, for instance, energy in Freeport, the intent was to generate energy at cost plus a nominal charge for infrastructure for businesses. There's not supposed to be a power company that's extracting wealth, just like they do Aragonite, out of the businesses on Grand Bahama by looking to increase profits every single year, even as the number of customers dwindle. Their profits don't go down. And so this is where the problem is. This is the corruption of what the intent of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement has been. I want people to imagine that we have a place we often refer to called Singapore that is only 30 square miles larger than Freeport, not Grand Bahama. 30 square miles larger than Freeport. That infrastructurally almost identical or even less superior Singapore is, yet they have 6 million people. And you see the buildings and all those different things. So there is some immigration reform that also must come with addressing the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement that allow for the protection of the sovereignty and citizenship of the Bahamas. Listen to me, Michelle. We could go through this. I want Bahamians to go read section 54 of the Constitution. One of these days, we can have it. I think what his name is? Sidney Walter MacArthur.
Yeah,
right?
He's been coming on my show on Mondays dealing with the Constitution.
The next time he asks, I want you to look at section 54 of the Constitution and realize even those protected things of the Constitution could be struck down. Section 54 of the Constitution is what protects the Constitution. But guess what? They have never in that structure put a protection for 54. So the next time they meet in Parliament, all of these people who talk about these things that's protected in the Constitution, they could go into Parliament and remove 54, and our Constitution will all but cease to exist as part of these protections. There's a lot of things about our Constitution, these so-called QCs who have led us, have not told us about the power, the capability we have. We don't need to move 54 to do a lot of changes. Like I really like to refer to number 7 of the Constitution, saying that you have a right to bond here. I think it's number 14 says, subject to the laws of public policy and national security. We can write a law right now saying legal entry and all these other different things and not even violate number 7 about being born here. They have been deliberate in deceiving Bahamians, and this is why they don't teach civics in our school. This is why they don't teach government in our school. They need you to not know the rights and privileges you have as a citizen. They do not want you to know that you have equal power. In fact, you have greater power because you don't give power to Parliament, You give authority to act. You have the power and you give them the authority to act on your behalf. And you always have the power, and that is demonstrated every 5 years or so when they come back to the people with power asking for the authority to go back to Parliament to act on our behalf. But the reason why we have not gotten what we're supposed to, especially in Grand Bahama, is because we don't know what to ask for. And over the decades, they have deliberately dumbed us down with misinformation and charlatan types environment of misdirecting us to from away from what the truth is. But as we come back to Grand Bahama is one of the greatest opportunity in the world today. And I would challenge any economist in the Bahamas to explain how could the Bahamas economy rebuild without Grand Bahama playing front and central. Not a point. The reason why...
Wait. Expand on that point, because we got to take a commercial break.
Okay.
So remember what that point is, and we're going to come straight to that on the other side. Stay with us. This is GPS. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Your body's immune system is under constant pressure from things like stress, lack of exercise, and toxins in the environment. It's crucial to be proactive and support your immune system with the nutrients it needs to function effectively. But it's often hard to get these nutrients from food alone. Introducing fast-acting Zinc Plus Immune Support by Longevity. Unlike zinc-only supplements, Zinc Plus Immune Support builds on the proven power of zinc and adds complementary nutrients to give your immune system extra support. Vitamin D helps balance the effects of zinc, while our proprietary blend of natural fruit and root extracts provides the extra help your immune system needs to work against daily stressors. And we've included Youngevity's exclusive plant-derived minerals to give your body the minerals it needs, but can't get from food alone. And because Zinc Plus Immune Support is delivered in a great-tasting, sugar-free, berry-flavored lozenge, it encourages quicker absorption of all these nutrients into your body. Zinc Plus Immune Support. Zinc plus the extra support your body needs to promote a healthy immune system. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Blessed love.
It's gotten harder and harder to get your daily requirement of vital nutrients from food alone. Without additional vitamin and nutrient support, your health and well-being can suffer drastically. That's why Z-Radical was specifically formulated. It combines a blend of antioxidant-rich vitamins, minerals, and botanicals with the protective powers of fucoidan to help fill the gaps from lack of nutrients in your foods. The core of Z-Radical is fucoidan, a naturally occurring polysaccharide that helps stimulate immune reaction, protecting you against inflammation and oxidative stress. We harvest this powerful mineral-rich nutrient from brown seaweed, harvested only from the world's most pristine ocean waters to ensure the purest quality. It's then extracted using cold process technology to ensure maximum levels of bioavailability. Then we add essential vitamins that help to protect your cardiovascular and nervous systems and are crucial for optimal immune and neurological function. Z-Radical also includes a proprietary blend of delicious antioxidant-rich fruits and berries. This great-tasting combination helps your body combat free radical imbalances that can contribute to a variety of degenerative conditions like arthritis and heart disease. Z-Radical. Experience the power of fucoidan with antioxidant-rich berries, 8 essential vitamins, and more to provide you with potent health benefits. To learn more, contact your Youngevity associate.
And we are back. Welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm here, along with my guest, C. Alan Johnson. We're talking about the situation in Grand Bahama as it relates to the relationship between the Grand Bahama Port Authority, the government of the Bahamas, and other entities as to whether or not the direction to go in is for the government to acquire the Grand Bahama Port Authority. There are some public figures who think that is a wonderful idea. Others say, nope, not a good idea, because the government has a difficult time running what it has on its table now. So what makes you think that this would be any better? The telephone numbers to call: 3260271, 3260271, 3260272, 3260272. The WhatsApp line to send us a message, if you so desire, is 8010271. Now, prior to the break, C. Allen, you had a point that you had started to make, and I asked you to stick a pin in it. And so now you can take it away with that point.
Okay, let me do the first point. I want to make 2 points. The first point is that we talk about what is going to happen, inflation. And I hear the opposition saying that the government should do something with inflation. And I hear the government saying they're going to do something with inflation. If either of them can bring you a plan to deal with inflation, I'll put a rope around my neck and stand on 2 empty aluminum cans.
Don't do it.
Okay. So listen to me, man.
Do it.
Don't listen to me. We are in trouble because our economy is not growing, and it hasn't grown to meet our population growth for decades. Mm-hmm. The problem with inflation is that we import everything we do. We don't manufacture anything. So we can't control inflation. We don't print money and all those different stimulus, etc. So we import inflation. And so the whole concept is doing something like what? When the government said, oh, we won't charge you VAT, or we'll take this off gas, all they doing is shifting. It's like saying, I'll stop punching you in the head and start punching you in your stomach, because government gets its money from you. Okay? They don't have no magic pot somewhere that they get money from. They get it from taxes. So when they move tax from one area, they move it to the next. Or they borrow, which is to put it on the back of your children and grandchildren with no means of them to pay. If you are getting less for the same amount of money, then you need to have more money to maintain the same amount of stuff. So if your salary or the economy is not growing, you naturally have the impact of inflation. And we will see the pain of that, because the supply chain that we have, what is in the country right now, was already here before this inflation, or was on its way before the inflation impact. So as these supply deteriorate and these people have to be reordered, we will be subject to the new order of prices around the world that's based on inflation, primarily from our number 1, 2, and 3 economies, the United States, Brazil, and other places. So do not let these people talk to you as if though you should be idiots to accept what they say. It is talk. I'm saying to you, we import inflation. We need to increase our GDP and get more money in the hands of individuals so they don't feel the impact of 8%, or at minimum minimize the impact, because the growth of their salaries commensurate with the inflation and cost of living increase. That has not happened. That's the problem. We're not talking economics, we're talking politics, and that's our problem. The second aspect for those individuals who keep saying government, I say to them, stop thinking we are talking about acquiring the Port Authority and have it run like BPL and the water company and the sewer company in New Providence. This is not where family, friends, and lovers run this thing. This is where people who are competent and professional will be hired to run it without interference of government. That's the way sovereign funds and sovereign asset management is run. This is why the Prime Minister will not put the land we have in the Bahamas into a sovereign wealth fund, because he can't hand it away like candy to family, friends, lovers, foreigners, and supporters and fanatics, because the sovereign asset management would seek to capitalize for its true value. And let's use an example. Let's pretend we have 1 million acres left. Putting 100,000 of that 1 million acres in a sovereign trust and having it run and developed by sovereign asset management, if you put only a value, whether it be from carbon credits, development, fisheries, whatever, of $300,000 per acre, you have just raised $30 billion. There go your national debt. There comes your new schools. There comes your hospital. There comes all of the things you've been crying for. And that's only one of the dozens of assets that you have. I'm not counting the aragonite, the sea, the seagrass, the mangroves, the coppice, all these things. This is just one. Just from right in the Prime Minister's office at the next meeting, he could surrender all the crown land that's left to a sovereign trust, who would then hire sovereign asset management. So we don't give it to people like Bahama and say, here, take $2 billion worth of property and give us the jobs. So they get to keep the equity and we get the jobs. Just overbroke suckers in a just overbroke system. We got to stop this madness. And so we have to begin. And I'm saying this, I've seen these other little small minor league parties trying to get to the major league. That's what most of these minor league parties do, you know. They only auditioning to get to the major league, but they bring no solution. What they do is they eloquently stir up emotions and begin to talk around about how the other people are screwing you and they won't as badly as they do. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to shift the conversation, and Grand Bahama is the most idyllic location for us to have a conversation concerning national development and correcting the wrongs of the past and having a conversation about equity. If the Grand Bahama Port Authority has a counter proposal, let's let them bring it forward as to exactly who will be the leadership, what is the vision they present, and how will Bahamians be incorporated based on the intent and correcting the defects and deficits that has occurred over the last 3 decades. Let's have that conversation, not in closed doors, not with a select group of people that the government appoints. So when you go to the meetings, I can tell you the last meeting we went to on the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement, right? Mm-hmm. Dr. Marcus Bethel, and this is not slander, this is taped on the internet, and I can provide a copy. When we went into the room, there was a point of reference that the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement was using. And when I went in to begin to have a conversation on the point of reference, you know what he said to me? Do not follow that agreement. Do what I say. He said, I said, so what is this for? What is the point of reference of the discussion? He says, we're having this discussion. Do not pay attention to that. And I'm saying, so then what was the point? So I'm saying to you, so what they do is they give you facade of what they want, or say one thing and they do another. And KCX and I went to every meeting they had, and we tried to do our input. And this is what they do. They get up and talk for 3 hours. And they said, okay, C. Allen Johnson, one question. KCX, what's your question?
And no follow-up to the one question would you ask?
No, and they don't answer the question and no follow-up. Right. See, we have to stop this. And so if they want to engage, stop allowing them to manipulate us. Let's demand that the Port Authority come to the people. By now, the Port Authority, since Dorian with their so-called, what is it called? The reef plan. They should have came to us with the so-called ocean economy to telling us what this ecosystem is and how it will be developed. They should have, the government of the Bahamas, remember the previous administration, with their economic committee report. And this government incorporated a lot of that as part of their blueprint for change. It's been 1 year. When are we going to get the blueprint for the blueprint for change? When are we going to get the steps to happen for what's going to happen for Grand Bahama, the actual development beyond the talk and the delays concerning a hotel and an airport? When we can have dates, 2025. That's good. You give us when. You ain't telling us by who. You ain't telling us how, and all these other different things. See, you just saying when, that's like a wish. We have to demand more. And the reason why we have not is because we have not demanded more. And for those individuals who say people like me know and talk, I say to you, come get informed and stand with people like me. And here's what you should do. Just simply say, call your MP, Ginger, right? Ginger Moxie, call Obadiah Wilshcombe, call Kirk Russell, call Turner, call Pintard, call Aram Lewis, call Kwesi Thompson, and says, we need you to publicly dismiss what C. Allen Johnson has said. Just shut him up. Because he's just been running over the... And you know what? I've been consistent for 20 years, you know. Many of the things they're talking about today, you remember carbon credits? 20 years ago, I was talking about carbon credits. I was called a tree hugger by the environmentalists who was singing carbon credits. I came up with the carbon credits and began to argue for the mangroves and the seagrass and carbon credits and the coppice when Bahama Rock and the other mining companies was destroying it on Grand Bahama. Okay? Which brings us to another point. Here it is, Carnival is in trouble. First of all, that's a whole different show where Carnival is having financial problems. But we said to them that they could build a canal in the Peterson Key protected area. And then we also said that they could destroy some area of mangroves and foliage and whatever. And we do the same thing in Exuma. We're doing the same thing in Eleuthera. This is what we say. You have people like Carnival and Disney says, we are preserving actually 100 acres. No. If you started with a 300-acre plot and you're saying when you finish it'll only be 100 acres, then you're destroying 200. You're not preserving anything because it's already sitting there preserved. Okay? Stop letting them snow us in exchange for jobs. They're destroying carbon-rich areas so they can have so we can have jobs. They're going to build a whole canal in the Peterson Key area to bring 2 of the world's largest, most polluting entities on earth into the Peterson Key marine protected area. where there's no guarantee that Carnival will even be around in a year or two, based on the new global effect that is having the same impact on the cruise business that COVID has. Okay, we need to diversify our tourism product, not away from it, but into it. And Grand Bahama, based on a survey, says that we need 20,000 room nights to be viable, just to be go for this airport. Just for the airport to function, there has to be 10,000 room nights on Grand Bahama. So no investor will come here in the true sense of hospitality unless they could be incorporated into a infrastructure that would bring 10,000 room nights, whether it be people or multiples of people or has to be hospitality, to get the volume needed for the airport to be fiscally viable. And so until a master plan for hospitality, second home ownership, and the development of ecosystems such as the green economy, blue economy, the digital economy, the orange economy, and all these things that we like to use on Grand Bahama, we will not be seeing an airport, and we will hear doing the next thing. We didn't have enough time to do what we want to do, and they'll make some excuse for the economy, and the new people will say, we know what to do this time because we learned our lessons from last time, and you'll have more of the same.
Yeah, cycle continues. You know, there's a saying that you don't get what you deserve in life, you get what you can negotiate. Would our negotiation have more teeth if people were to realize what you just described? When I say people, the masses, come together and use their collective power to have a better position as it relates to their negotiation power? Or
No, it actually is. But see, the important thing that we need is educating on what you demand. I have a joke I tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a previous relationship, right? And she met me with a young lady, and she asked me, "Are you sleeping with her?" I looked her straight in the face.
Met you with her.
Yes, and I look her straight in the face and says, "I swear on my children's life and my whole family life, I have never slept with this woman, and I've never intend to sleep with her." And about 6 months later, that lady who she met me with gave birth to a beautiful daughter, my daughter.
That looks just like you.
Yes, and she came to me and says, "You lying, F this and this, where you said you wasn't sleeping with her." And I looked at her and says, "I've never slept with this woman, and I never will sleep with her. When we together, we do everything but sleep." She asked the wrong question. Okay?
Semantics.
Right. So what I'm saying is become informed so that you can ask the right question. Other than that, you may get the wrong answer. And so what we have is we have the arrogance of ignorance of individuals who always telling you their opinion of an opinion, what they've heard and what somebody else said. And I tell the people all the time, if you want to know what the Hawke's Bay Creek Agreement is, right, I'll give you the Royal Commission report that explains it. I'll give you all the documents I have so you can understand what you're talking about. They revel, the leadership of this country revels in the ignorance of the individuals on Grand Bahama and more so the wider Bahamas of what the Hawke's Bay Creek Agreement is for their own benefit, not for yours. Because knowing what Grand Bahama and the Hawke's Bay Creek Agreement is will liberate you. It's like the key to economic freedom. Remember the 20,000 rooms? Imagine thousands of bed and breakfast, 5 units at a time, owned by families, instead of these mega hotels. You would literally have families that own 5 units and 10 units and 20 units, all under the 20 units or 25 unit boutique hotel environment, whether it be ecotourism, green or blue or whatever. Imagine that we have boats and yachts where people are bed and breakfast or VRBOs that are actually boats and yachts in a 100,000 square miles ocean economy. We can own this because fintech and DeFi, decentralized finance now allows Bahamians, this is another thing they haven't taught you, that you do not need to go to the bank for financing. Okay? Guess what? When they were talking about many of the things you hear on radio and television, Michelle, you and I talked about this for weeks and months. Then you have some former MP or former politician or some board member repeat the same thing months later when it actually happened, and it makes the front page of the newspaper. And so what I'm simply saying is because they know our conditioning. If a politician says it, wrong or not, it must be right. And that's what we have to overcome. We are now in a world of knowledge. Now, here's what we have to understand. Information is all around us. Google and YouTube and give it to us. The proper comprehension of information is knowledge. But we must do what the Bible says. Seek after wisdom. What is wisdom? Information, when properly comprehended, is knowledge. Wisdom is the proper execution of that knowledge. And that was what we must seek. But we have the opportunity of a brand that we were born with, the Bahamas. If you go to Miami and put bed and breakfast on it, guess what? You'll probably be lucky if you get $50 or $75. Put it in Grand Bahama with the proper support infrastructure, and like they say, we're the third most expensive bed and breakfast in the world. You could probably get $200, $300, $400 a day for the same room. The same way the cruise, go to nowhere cruise out of Miami, $50. They say, oh, we go into the Bahamas and we can turn off our engine and save gas, $500. That's the brand we have developed over the years. It's time for Bahamians to exploit the word Bahamas and Bahamian for our benefits. We don't need foreigners to come in here to do what the 21st century now allows us to do for ourselves. And this is the type of conversation we have to have. This is the conversation we must make demands of the Port Authority and of government, and beginning with the Office of Prime Minister, saying that you don't know what to do. Remember, they're running a country. If you had somebody who came on the job for 1 year and did nothing, so they're still thinking about what to do, you would fire them. And no company would hire a CEO that would take 1 year to decide what had to be done to assess the problem. So I'm simply saying to you, we must now demand more of the Office of the Prime Minister so Ms. Ginger Moxie can go to her cabinet meeting and say, boy, I need a hotel room here on on New Providence for the next year, and then go, why? Because I can't go back to Grand Bahama with no answer. Okay? And so the same thing with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. We must demand from them that we need you to bring to us an executable, verifiable, testable strategy, or we need you to prepare to exit the Grand Bahama Port Authority. Now, I want people to remember, the Bahamian people still own 7.5% of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. No one has ever came to Parliament to say if those shares came to Parliament to get consent for those shares to be sold. You can't dispose of any assets of the Bahamian people without first coming to Parliament and get consent. No one has said that where that 7.5% is for the last 30 years, or to where the dividends have been paid. These are just some of the questions that must be asked. And I'm simply saying is we can have a period of reconciliation, I say truth and reconciliation, like they did in South Africa, between the Grand Bahama Port Authority principle and the Bahamian people to find out what's now, what's new, and what's next.
I wanna read a comment from Facebook, and I'd like you to respond. Wolverine says, so is there a consensus of questions and demands? Is there a directional concept that is laid out for Grand Bahama?
I have my own, but we have never been able to come together as a collective because Grand Bahama has become a company town. Let me tell you, if I were to go to some people right now and say, I need some money to have a town meeting, they'll tell me, yes, Alan, here's some money, but please don't mention my name. Because you think victimization in the government is bad?
Right.
Grand Bahama is like you almost don't want to come into the ire of the government and the Grand Port Authority at the same time. They'll be punching you on two sides of the head. So what you have is fear has settled into the people and complacency that has settled in. But here's the problem we have. And the reason why we have not been able to come together is because of us. Every 5 years, we have allowed government to govern for the 20%. So, and the other 20% sits out waiting for them to govern for 20%. while 60% of us sit in the middle. The PLP has proven they govern for their 20% base. The F&M has proven that they govern for their 20% base. And the 60% of the new Bahamians and those waiting to become Bahamians, those that want to live in the 21st century Bahamas, is never given the opportunity because we allow these political parties to govern for the 20%. We must demand that decision and governance in the Bahamas is made for all Bahamians. And we have to demand, you get what you demand. But see, Frederick Douglass says, power concedes nothing without a demand. To that I add, power would never concede to the demand of an emasculated constituent. You cannot demand anything from me on your knees.
Very powerful, very powerful. Wow. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I hope you can stay with us for more of the last half hour, C. Allen.
Yes, I'm going to try.
Okay, great. All right, so we'll be back after this. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Trackline, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses loud.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company along with my guest today, C. Alan Johnson. We're talking Grand Bahama, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, and the relationship of it with the government of the Bahamas, and by extension, the people of Grand Bahama, whether or not the time has come for the government to acquire the Port Authority, or, as some suggest, should they stay as far from that idea as possible, because in their opinion, it's not a good idea. The telephone numbers to call 3260271, 3260271, 3260271, or 3260272, 3260272, and the WhatsApp line to send us a message via text is 801-0271, 801-0271. So Grand Bahama is at the center of our conversation today. For those of you who may have tuned in late, we're having some technical issues for our New Providence audience because of a lightning strike that hit our transmitter last week. And we're not back up as yet in New Providence. Hopefully we'll be so by tomorrow or the weekend. So for all of you in New Providence watching via Facebook or YouTube, I'd like you to please reach out if you know anyone who likes to listen to GPS via radio, and let them know how they can find us, so that they can take part in this really great conversation. See, Alan is breaking it down for us in terms of what needs to happen to try to salvage the economy of Grand Bahama. And, you know, this is a conversation that has been happening for a very long time now. I am old enough to remember when Grand Bahama was booming, and was in many ways the envy of those of us here in New Providence. I remember a couple of times when we would have been covering things like political conventions or whatever, when the whole team would come together, and we would bring in team members from Grand Bahama to work along with the team members in New Providence, and they used to be, you know, throwing sport at us and making sport at us and saying things like, you know, I want her to get home with this jam up off of this jam up rock, y'all. So, you know, they talk down to us about how things were in New Providence compared to Grand Bahama.
What?
And if you travel to Grand Bahama now, it is a shadow
of his former self.
So we know that it can work. It's not like it's never worked.
But this is why I say to you that I believe, and that person who asked about the conversation, I think now that we are moving into this deeper into this economic crisis, we must have a conversation on the economic development of the Bahamas, an expansion. I hear people all the time say, oh, everybody can't own. When people say we want ownership, we're talking about owning the economy, not necessarily owning businesses. And so you hear political.
Explain the difference.
See, what they say is, well, everybody can't own it. Who's going to work? We understand that. But when you hear political leadership say you can't own, right, they miss the concept of what ownership is. When the Bahamas, listen to me, man, we don't own tourism. We are the labor. We don't own banking. We are the labor. The only thing we own in this country and we inadequately paid for is our labor. It's time for us to individually and collectively own our infrastructure. They'll tell you, well, Bahamians own the shares in Alive, and Bahamians own the shares in Cable Bahamas and the Port and Harbor. No, we're talking about a collective equity across this island, like they do in other countries that has the wealth or a fraction of the wealth that we have. We're talking about we don't need foreigners. We're talking about us owning on Grand Bahama. Those 20,000 bed and breakfast, How about 1,000 families owning 20 rooms each, or 2,000 families owning 10 rooms each, or 4,000 families owning 5 rooms each on the island of Grand Bahama? That doesn't encounter for support infrastructure for those 20,000 room nights, such as fishing and entertainment and tour and shopping and all these things. We talk about owning them. We talk about owning having what is called affordable housing. I'm saying to you that Grand Bahama vision will be expressed through myself and others, because nothing like the present to do what you could have done in the past. And the conversation must have, but it requires us as a collective out there, I'm talking to you, to demand that it happen and support. I'm not the only person that has this type of vision, but you have to be able to support us as opposed to supporting the politician. You don't give them 50 years to try. What's giving us 2 years? And we're not even asking to go to office. We're just going to ask you to demand that the laws that is necessary to develop this ecosystem happens. So see, let me tell you what is possible on Grand Bahama. This has been verified, right? These various different economic models. There's a concept developed by Eden Navigator, which is a blended form of various different economy, including the data economy, the green economy, the blue economy, platform economy, circular economy, silver economy, knowledge economy, digital economy, conceptual economy, ocean economy, orange economy, shared economy, and a new carbon economy. I hope I got them all, not necessarily in order. The point I make is, and that's a 26-year-old Gen Z. For people who don't understand, we got about 5 generations of people. We have Alpha generation after 210. We have Gen Z born from 1996 to 210. We have millennials born from 1981 to 1995. And then we have the Boomers 2, which is the X, which is born from 1961 to 1980. And then we have the Boomers, not the Boomers 2 from that. Then we have the Boomers, or the, what they call it, World War I or whatever. So we have maybe a couple generations. But we now need to build the Bahamas for the last 3. We need to build it for the Alpha generation after 210, the Gen Z after 1996, and for the millennials after 1981. And so we must shift to an ownership economy utilizing the tools of the 21st century. And Grand Bahama has the ability to do it. As we build affordable housing where you could come to Grand Bahama and find an efficiency, fully prepared, not no cage, for 400, 1 bedroom for 5, 2 bedroom for 6, 3 bedroom for 7, and 4 bedrooms for 8, and find the jobs and whatever to support your family. Because not everybody will, again, own homes, but they should have a decent life, affordable housing, not low income. Low income housing requires you to have what? Low income. We want affordable housing, okay? So what I'm saying to you is that we must now move to demand more from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, that they cut bait, right, or fish, or get the hell out of the boat. And the same thing from our government. First of all, I want people to understand, even though we talk about this data economy and everything, and you hear governments have attempted, the previous administration tried to do the digital economy and the tech hub. No government in the world has ever developed an ecosystem directly. So when you have a guy or woman or whatever who could barely turn on their phones in charge because their political party they support, who say they're going to now build an economy and they can't build a cell phone, how are they going to build a data economy or digital economy, or even know how to do it? You can't call Google using the information you get from Google to tell them you're inviting them to set up a headquarters here. Google want to know, where do we grow and thrive? You have to sell them the future. And so what I'm simply saying is that we now must have that conversation, because we have the knowledge, we have the information, we have the knowledge. We now must seek the people around the world to help us develop this ecosystem. No government has developed ecosystem except creating the legislation and policy and resources for these ecosystems to thrive. So stop looking to government to develop a tech hub. Stop looking to government to develop a green economy or carbon economy. Stop them, we're talking about, oh, they're going to develop an orange economy. They're going to give you dance schools and tell you they develop an economy. That's garbage, okay? Please, and we have to stop allowing them to give us fake bait. Okay, to just have us just sit and wait and patiently that if there's something going to happen as if they're going to do anything. These individuals, with all due respect, we knew them before they was elected. They are 5-year celebrities whose only job is to go to Parliament, create policy, legislation, and programs, not build no ecosystems, not build no business. If they want to build businesses, tell them to leave Parliament and go open up their own business. And they're supposed to create the environment for you to build it. They're supposed to create the environment through legislation and policy and programs for you to have access to the capital. Not $5,000 and $10,000 and you need $3,000 for licensing fees. So you get barely enough to buy gas for the car if you have it. And you definitely don't even have enough for $5,000 to import the new cars coming from Japan, the 10-year-old cars. So stop it about we empowering young people, whatever. Can we get $5,000 grant and this and that? To do what? You can buy anything. We need access to real capital. We need access using DeFi, decentralized finance, fintech, and other tools to give us access to the millions and billions of dollars available. The new carbon economy the government is talking about. Have they told you that the carbon economy is $1 billion economy, and by 2030, in less than 8 years, it'll be $1 trillion economy, and we're supposed to be the front and center of it? How do the government talk about shifting to renewable energy so that on Grand Bahama we can have energy for less than 10 cents that is necessary for businesses to thrive? You should not be paying more for electricity bill than you pay for rent and mortgage, okay? Businesses can't stay open because they have to decide, do I pay the landlord or do I pay the power company? That should not be a choice. And we can solve these problems. The 21st, the same people, the same Google you all use, the same YouTube, the answers are there. We just have leadership that can't find Google or YouTube on their phone talking about they're going to build digital things.
I want to read a comment from one of our Facebook viewers. Miko says, Grand Bahama has its own government representatives and ministers of parliament. GBPA serves no purpose. Recognize if the Sovereign Wealth Fund was active, you would only need contracted city and account managers. With proper infrastructure and amenities, investors and local businesses would just be plugged in.
That is absolutely right in that concept. And that's what we're saying. We're saying, let's make Grand Bahama, by virtue of beginning with Freeport, what we need the Bahamas to become. And I'm saying to you, when you have the resources here, right? Literally speaking, Grand Bahama and other islands can become gateways to the Caribbean and other places. And as we develop Freeport, you will have more and more resources to duplicate this across other islands where the infrastructure will take a little longer to be developed. But guess what? Government gets its revenue from where? Taxes. So we let them get out of our pockets and individual pockets, and let's increase the population while protecting citizenship so that they can reach in some more pockets of broader people. I'd rather them take $1 from 1 million people and the 5,000 they take from me every year and the 20,000 other individuals. So let's increase what is necessary, the growth and the economy. Let's increase the GDP of the Bahamas, because if the government taking 25% of the GDP, okay, good. Let's get to a $50 billion GDP so government can have $12 billion to spend to build what is necessary. And I say it's possible for it to grow. In fact, Grand Bahama can add $2 billion to the Bahamian GDP in less than 2 years. And I want the Minister of Finance, Mr. Brave Davis, the Junior Minister of Economic Affairs, Mr. Halkitis, and Ms. Ginger Moxie to sit in a public forum and challenge me on this.
All right, we've only got 14 minutes left in the show. So how do we move this needle? First step.
The first step is become informed. My telephone contact is 825-9700, 825-9700, c.allen, ALLEN.johnson@outlook.com, and get a copy of the Royal Commission on the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. Then begin to listen to individuals who begin to describe to you the economic models and the steps that is necessary for it to happen. Become informed of the legislation that is needed. And I promise you, Michelle, I told you I was going to start making myself available. And September 7th is my Earth Day. And I want you and I, as we move forward towards my Earth Day, to make sure that they tune into the GPS, global paradigm shift, so that we can give them the information week by week to allow them to transition into this new reality of economic empowerment, personal economic system, PES, personal economic system, that is part of our national economic system, that is part of a global economic system. And so it begins right here on GPS, and some shows I will be doing across my social media accounts. And a good place to start for those individuals of you who don't know these economic models we speak of, EdenMaryGator.com, EdenMaryGaitor.com, or find her on social media, on YouTube and Facebook. She has broken down each of these economic models, telling you what they are and how they could be achieved in the Bahamas. So you have to know what you're going into. Let's use an example. We talk about diversifying the economy. Hospitality is the 10th largest economic model in the world, and it's growing. It will most likely become number 9 or number 8, right? Here's what we have to do. That means that we have yet to tap into hospitality. We're still using the old archaic system, so Stanford Science has given us. We need to adopt the new model of the fifth social revolution, utilizing the digital tools available to us. And let's expand our hospitality product and our tourism product. And I use those two words, we use them interchangeably. Hospitality is what people experience. Tourism is what people do. Sports tourism, religious tourism, health tourism, all these different things. That's what tourism is. Hospitality experience. At one time, let's create a blueprint for Grand Bahama and the Bahamas as a whole. We used to provide sun, sand, sea, and service. We have dropped service. Let's bring service back. Not servitude, service. One where we own our economy. But the conversation has to be who, when, where, why, and the tools as necessary. Not the rhetoric of we'll open the airport by 2025, and we think this foreigner is going to come in and develop a master plan for the hospitality industry of the Bahamas, or for Grand Bahama, sorry, when they didn't even know Grand Bahama existed until we put a bid out. How are they going to come and develop infrastructurally a hospitality industry for us? Okay, so the conversation has to happen so you can become informed and be pointed in the right direction and be educated on how to access capital without going to the prostitutes in our country, the pimps in our country, and become prostitutes. I call them banks. Okay? Let them die out. Let's learn to use fintech and take our money out of the banks and utilize technology and the sand dollar and other things to gain control over our economy.
I want to read a comment from Facebook. Adrian Mott is asking the question. We hear you, Mr. Allen, but what will change if we stay with the red and yellow? Lincoln Bain is our only hope. The people are afraid of politicians. Do you agree or disagree?
I scared of Lincoln Bain.
Oh my God.
See, listen to me.
How do you really feel?
Listen to me. Everybody can say, listen to me. What I'm saying to you, right? You can't give me degrees of idiocracy, right? I know the things that Lincoln is saying, and I know how they are to be executed. Not the way he said. I mentioned some of them today about a sovereign wealth fund. The simplest thing for the Coalition of Independents to do, if they're serious, just argue for one thing. Demand a sovereign wealth fund be established. Don't say, if you make me king, I will feed you better than the other people. I don't need nobody to govern me. I am self-governed. Here's what I say. Demand a sovereign wealth fund be established, that all assets in the Bahamas, known and unknown, seen and unseen, tangible and intangible, be surrendered immediately to that sovereign wealth fund. And then we will get sovereign asset management companies to run them. That's BPL, that's BTC, that's Cable Bahamas, that's Alive, that's Aragonite, that's our ocean shipping lanes, that's our airways, that's our mangroves, that's our Copus, that's our Crystal Caves, that's all of them. We don't need somebody who's going to ditch out $100,000. If you give everybody $100,000 in the Bahamas, who's going to Burger King tomorrow to serve the food? Who's going to get up and do whatever else there is? Come on, man. Who you building the country for? Because immediately when you do that, you have now, without a system of economics, have extracted this out. How do you maintain this? I'm simply saying is this. There are some merits in his argument. The defect is in his idea of execution. And I say his, I'm talking about the coalition of independence, not Lincoln being individually. Because if Lincoln being is the coalition of independence, we're in bigger trouble than they think.
We have a call on the line. Caller, welcome to GPS.
Michelle.
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, Alan, you on topic so far?
We're listening. Continue.
We're listening.
How you doing? Only one thing, Michelle, I want to continue to repeat. We could beat our gums like they were beating from 1492. Your gum was turning into a drum before anything changed. The Creator was, is, and will always be in charge of humans. Now, I hear C. Allen, and I didn't listen to the show, so I'm not talking about anything he has to say other than I agree with the sand dollar. That's all I heard because I just reached. But I leave you with that.
All righty.
Okay. Yeah, but the sand dollar is another show. The sand dollar is nothing more than the beaming money in digital form. The question is, how do we utilize the sand dollar wallets? Not the way it's been used now, the way it should be used for the economic empowerment of the unbanked in the Bahamas, and to leave the banks not having to go to a bank. And that's, again, it's not, they try to profit from, instead of making it what it's supposed to be, we're looking for some select group of people who's looking to profiteer from it again. Everything in our country, nothing seems to work, and everything starts out corrupted. Nothing that starts corrupted works corrupted. And again, for you coalition of independents, don't get mad. Give me a call. Let me explain to you what I mean. Lincoln Bain is not going to save us. A unified Bahamian people who can govern themselves rather than looking for handouts through entrepreneurship and economic development, empowerment, can help ourselves. What we need is the collective intelligence of all of us rather than the select noise of the few of us.
But you know, see, Alan, here's the thing. We have been doing it this way for so long that even when a good idea comes around, like the sand dollar, we're still trying to make the future fit into the old wineskin, the wine of the future fit into the old wineskin of the way we are used to doing things, which is trying to keep this centralized control, which goes against the very essence of what it is that the thing is designed to accomplish.
Well, you see the same thing that's been done with sand dollar, that is being done with gaming. The gaming industry is a multi-billion going into $1 trillion industry now that we have e-gaming and iGaming. But we have what is called proxy gaming, where we're limited to the Bahamas. If we actually made the Bahamas a digital gaming jurisdiction utilizing the new technology, you could have some young people set up gaming places around the world just from the e-gaming, right, from the iGaming and the e-gaming, but they only need 10,000 people to lose $1 a day with them, because the house always wins. They'll have $10,000 a day by 365 days, rather than us taking our nickels, dimes, and quarters into these web shops. And these web shop people already have the advantage. They have the server. They can just go global. So, but we keep poisoning ourselves by drinking from the same well that we knew killed the people before us. And so what we have to do is rethink what we've been doing. Einstein said it, doing the same thing, expecting a different result is insanity. We are now idiot and insane savants.
Say that again. Say that again.
Einstein said, doing the same thing, expecting a different result. We have done this so long, we are now idiot, insane savants. Savants are people who have extra gift in a particular area. Well, in insanity, and is where we have ours.
Wow.
Doing the same thing over and over again. So let's change that paradigm. We have the opportunity that the information is available around the world. Let's begin to understand it so we have knowledge, and let's properly execute it so people consider us a nation of wise people. And let's not look for handouts. Let's look for the collective intelligence of all of us. And I say, tune into Paradigm Shift to Global to GPS. I saw you saying, I can't remember the whole thing. Tune into GPS, and by September 7th, we're going to have a set time and date on this station and across the social media for you to ask directed questions. How, when, where, who can help me navigate the new Bahamas? And for those of you who want to see change, let's demand immediately that a law be passed surrendering all assets, seen and unseen, known and unknown, tangible and intangible, to a sovereign wealth fund to be managed by sovereign asset management, so we don't have family, friends, lovers, foreigners, fanatics, and financiers influencing the decision government make. Let's have it be made on behalf of us, and we can develop our own sovereign asset management, whether it be in micro size or whether we get somebody temporary. Remember, we can hire and fire sovereign asset management as we want. So as we begin to gain the expertise that is necessary and we begin to develop this niche, we could have sovereign management managing our $1 trillion economy, the way Singapore, Norway, and all these other people we like to refer to does it.
See, Alan Johnson, always a pleasure, always coming with new and innovative ideas, whether people love you, hate you, or in between. One thing they can't deny is that you have some very interesting ideas that you're not afraid to bring forward. I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be with us here on GPS. I always appreciate our conversations.
Thank you. And again, till maybe next week. We'll talk again this weekend.
Yeah, we'll talk. All right. Thank you. Take care. All right, guys, that's my time. I'm Michelle Malcolm. We have more great programming for you right here on Global 99.5 FM, so don't you go anywhere. But GPS is out of here. Tomorrow is Friday, TGIF Open Line Show, where you are my co-host, and we talk about the week that was. Do we have a lot of ground to cover? Hope to see you there. Until then, have a good afternoon and be safe.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This is 99.